elevation here. Okay, as we're all aware, but I want to do a quick recap just so those that are new to the, you got it? You got it? New to the, to this, have an understanding of what we're talking about. So just a quick location map here of the Community Recreation Center and Court Complex and Central Park bathrooms, also known as the Comfort Cottage, located in the Central Park between the amphitheater here and Kids Castle. Generally, that is the best spot. It's flat, and that's where the sign is currently as we are fundraising for that building. A couple highlights on the project itself. Located in Central Park, a building is 25 by 23, almost so 575 square feet. 6 individual use ADA compliant bathrooms with baby changing tables. Door hardware which will auto lock. We have an idea that after hours when they're not in use they would be locked so that we cut down on any overnight use and vandalism or just things that the Public Works guys and Parks Department deal with on a regular basis.
I assume that's from the outside it locks, so we don't lock somebody in accidentally. I assume that means it doesn't lock somebody in, it's only when everybody's out.
Correct.
Right.
They'll have panic hardware on the inside, so when it does lock on the outside, then if somebody's in there, they will be able to use the crash bar to get out just like you would at any building that's secured.
Will then go whoop, whoop, whoop.
No, no, not like this, not like,
Let me do that, and then it won't go whoop,
no,
whoop, whoop.
no, it won't.
Not like
We
this.
didn't want to miss that.
So anyway,
I
that,
just told him to use the microphone, so I have to use the microphone.
there we go. So that'll be that. Accessories include hand dryers, exhaust fans, toilet paper dispensers. We're trying to make this as maintenance-free as possible, so we're not going to have paper towel dispensers. Again, the guys deal with enough in the bathrooms and maintenance of the bathrooms, so we're trying to make them maintenance-free. Exterior lighting, we're looking at putting soffit lighting up above each door. We do have concept plans, which we'll show you coming up here in a few seconds. Climate-controlled heat only. Okay, and then we're basically looking at, which I think we've all seen, is also having a 10 by 23 covered porch, freestanding water fountain and bottle filler in the front of that, which would be facing toward the amphitheater at the trail. The entire site would be ADA compliant with an entire concrete pad surrounding the site so that basically anybody could, get to the if there's any physical disabilities, they can get to the bathrooms, any one of the 6 of those. And then basically what we're looking at is completed on or before June 1st of 2025 in time for the concerts next year. That is done. Quick recap. Any questions regarding that? Okay, some concept plans, and these, are basically the prefabricated, basically concrete boxes that we obtained from M&W Precast. They're located not too far from here, up in Ottsville. They are locally made. They are manufactured on site. Basically, if you see here, this first elevation here on the right is if you were walking down the parking lot towards Kids Castle, your amphitheater's on your left. This is what you're going to see. You're going to see the 3 doors, 3 bathrooms, and the overhang. If you were walking away from Kids Castle back toward the parking lot with the amphitheater on your right, you would see the same thing. So it's a mirror of each other. 3 doors on each side with, again, the front covered area with, again, this doesn't show the water fountain. We're going to supply that. This is the renderings that if we go with this prefabricated option, this is what they are proposing the design. Though it's not final. It's just a proposal at this point in time, okay? And then the 2 side elevations, this being the front elevation, which would be facing the amphitheater, this front view right here. While this does show windows, we're not proposing to have any windows in these rooms. And then the rear of the building, this is a door which accesses a common shared space in the middle, which houses utilities, and we've asked it to be wide enough that we could store supplies in there as well. So that's about 7, that hallway in there's about 7 feet wide. The usable space is probably about 4 feet wide because of all the mechanicals and pipes and things in there, but it's all self-contained. These are self-contained boxes that are manufactured off-site. You can see where the split is here, like this piece right here is 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units. And so all these 3 doors here are all individual units. Actually, let me go to the next picture. And they are manufactured and brought on and craned on site. And then what they're doing, they're joined together. So this is 1 unit here, this is another unit, and the final unit. Then the roof is added on modularly as trusses and all put together. Okay, so it is prefabricated off-site, brought on-site, and dropped on-site. So what we're looking at here on the floor plan, floor plan elevation is, this is the front porch, the area here in cyan, which would be facing the amphitheater. The orange rooms are the 6 bathrooms. 7 by 7, ADA compliant. You notice this one has a circle in it. That is the turning radius for a wheelchair. So completely ADA compliant, all 3 of them, all 6 of them. They all have their own exterior doors. And again, this center corridor, accessible from the rear, has all the utilities that come up through these 2 spots here on the floor, and everything's tied together. All the floor drains are tied in so that basically Public Works can go in there. It's a totally complete concrete box. That the Public Works can go in and with a pressure washer, hose, sanitize the entire room and wash everything right down the drain, okay? That's what basically the plan is as we receive the proposal, which I'm gonna go through the numbers with you. Any questions on the floor plan?
You said there will be no windows. Is there going to be a ventilation system in the top?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I think I'd show that in the back, but it basically, ventilation out the front with heat, cold water. I'll show more information on what they kind of look like or what they're proposing as we go forward. But yes, they have to be, that's code.
Right.
Correct.
So individual heaters in each of the restrooms?
Correct. Though we do have an idea to change that, but right now, as proposed, there are 6 individual block heaters in there.
If you go back to the slide before this one, I looked at the downspout. Is that going to be just standalone, like sticking out like that?
That's to be determined. I mean, that's the way they showed it. We're working, I don't know if there's gonna be a column there that we're gonna put there,
Okay.
but, we're, again, concept plans that we need to work the details on. Because what we did was, hold on, let me go, sorry about that. These overhangs right now, before the roof ended right at the end of this line right here.
Where's the cursor?
All right, here we go.
Yeah, we can't
Oh.
see your cursor.
Can't see my cursor? Oh,
Yes,
really?
I've not
Okay.
been able to see
Yeah,
it.
okay, just sorry about that. So we'll do this. All right, there we go. So the roof, actually, if I do this, the roof actually before was kind of looked like this, and it came down and it ended here at the eave. Okay, so what we basically did is ask them to extend the roof line by 5 feet, which is, basically a wheelchair with, 3 feet you need for wheelchair, but we gave it a little more so that when the door opens up, and somebody can get in and around, and also if they walk out of the bathroom and it's raining, they're not get soaked. So we did expand the roof a little bit to cover the doors, also keeps water from getting in. So, but yeah, downspout we're gonna work on, that's one thing we need to work on, and that's something that we could bring the downspouts but down to the front, in the front here, and tie them into an underground system and kind of pipe everything underneath.
Any concerns around the temperature in the summer months if there's only heat?
Not necessarily. I mean, they're vented, so basically as soon as you walk in, the fan, to turn the lights on, I think will go on automatically, the fan kicks on.
Okay.
So they've manufactured, and I'll show you a number of photos. I mean, they're not gonna be, they're gonna be warm, but our current bathrooms don't have any type of, summer air conditioning. It's just fans and heaters,
Thank you.
okay? Any questions on the floor plan or anything else going
What's
forward?
that clad in? Like, what's the finished product on
Good.
the outside?
I'll show you that. So, we're gonna go through, now remember, these are concrete, so we've got some options, and I wanna show you some things that examples of their projects. So this is the first one. This is actually, basically M&W Precast, again, located in Ottsville, manufactured. This is up in Bristol Township, at their Veterans Park, I think, which is right near their municipal building. I'm showing you this one because what this shows you is the scale and size of our building as it's proposed. I just showed you the plans. It's gonna have an overhang It's gonna have doors on the side. It's probably gonna cut off somewhere back in here, so we won't have, you know, these windows and then these basically privacy screens back here. But I wanted to kind of give you an idea. And also, our building won't have any type of service window here. It's just gonna have a overhang, doors on the side. Now, again, this is what originally proposed, which was just the eave stopping right above the door. We're showing that we're gonna extend that overhang over so you have some protection on the doors. This is all concrete, okay? And that's the, somewhat of the good and the bad of this is, it's good because it's solid. I mean, you know, extent, when we talk about vandalism, or we talk about use and abuse, and being able to go in and use these things, the guys can really do, you know, it's ease of maintenance, and they're solid. But, you know, with concrete comes kind of the look, which obviously you can see here what this is. These are form liners. They basically, before they pour the building or the panel, because all these are panels that are connected to create the box, they put a form liner in front to create the stone look, whether it's
Do without the stone?
yeah, I'm going to show you examples of that. Okay, I've got examples. So you can pick multiple patterns. This is actually on top is actually concrete to look like lap siding. Okay, you put the form liner in there. You can pick your sidings. We can do a flush siding and add stone, which I'm going to show you in a couple. But I wanted to get a scale of what the product looks like, and you know, just the general quality of what they produce. Okay, so that's there's another one now that gives you a better idea. Now this is same idea. This is all concrete on top. This is actually concrete roof, and what they've done is they've added in a stacked stone detail on it to, you know, basically pretty it up. Okay, these two right here, same idea. Stacked stone type stone with concrete lap siding on the top. So that's an option. There's costs associated with doing that. And then on this one, these two are the same project. What you'll notice about this is that this is a form liner concrete made to look like stone, and what they've done is they've actually gone through and individually stained each stone to give it a look. Similar to if you drive down the Parkway and you see what PennDOT has done on the abutment walls and things like that. That's the idea. It's an option. I'm not saying it's the one you want to pick. I'm just showing you the options, and what we need to do is kind of come and get some direction from you as to where we're going to go with this. Okay. So any questions on these? Again, these are all the same. You know, everything's been manufactured by M&W. Okay. Colors, they can do any color. They can color match any color we want. So if we like a color, they come up with a color too. All right. Again, same idea. These two pictures on the left, this is, again, another building, all concrete, painted. This is what the interior looks like. Okay, so you can notice very utilitarian, all concrete, but you have exposed conduit. Okay, you know, the guys can live with it, as I talked to them about it, and we did take, you know, Chris Mason and Rick Shea up there because we're talking when we actually visited their site. You know, we don't like the fact that there's exposed concrete because, I mean, someone can hang on it or do something to it. But at the end of the day, that's kind of what you get if you're going to go this route with the precast fabricated bathrooms, okay? This is another look, and if you notice the same thing, there's the block heater up in the corner, very utilitarian. This is more multi-use bathroom with obviously partitions. We wouldn't have, we'd be looking at this, but you have a block heater up in the corner. Again, we do have ideas to use a different type of heater that's more low profile, but we have to work with them. And then you can see the exposed conduit, which feeds, this is probably an exterior wall, which feeds probably a fan. That's probably why that screen is there. And then also the lighting that's in there. So just trying to get everybody an idea as to what they're proposing, okay? Any questions on this?
My only ask is that the bottom half of that is painted so that it's not white. Do you know what I mean? So
We
sometimes
can
it is,
paint the interior any color we want.
okay, or just even if it's half, it can be white on the top and something on the bottom, it doesn't matter, just so it's not white. So it doesn't show anything.
Can be, we can make it any color. Yes, you can make it any color you want.
Yeah.
It's
You know what I mean.
epoxy paint, which can, you know, and sealed concrete, which can be, cleaned very easily, okay? Again, another example of the product that they've built. You can see the same thing where you've got, it's all concrete on the bottom. This is actually vinyl siding. I don't like that, but there's options to change that personally, but this is all concrete, and it's stained to make more like natural stone, but yet very utilitarian, okay? So just information and things to consider. So what do we have in Central Park? Well, the bottom picture here is our stone that we have at the bottom of the amphitheater that, we have across there, and then this is the stone on Pavilion 1. So, we can, and there's also stone on this building. It's here, right here in front of us, some of you behind you. So you can match, they've got all kinds of things you can match form and color to make it look like and match what's existing in the park. Okay, so there's, again, going back, there's options where we can put, do the whole entire building in some type of veneer stone that matches this, that we could match what's on, that's gonna go on the community recreation center. So it's just a matter of, but there's costs. And I'm gonna go through the costs as we go forward here. So those are the options that basically M&W Precast has, what they've shown us that they can do. Okay, any questions on that option? And I'm gonna have numbers and comparisons in a minute. I wanna show you another, what we're calling the stick-built option, okay?
Dave, could they take and make it look like batten board, where it's like two stripes? and then-
Yes,
So the whole thing could be one,
you could do board and
so instead
batten.
of splitting it, just do board and batten,
You can,
and then maybe brown looking, something to complement the rec center and not have to divide all the different colors in stone?
yes, they could do the entire thing in lap siding. It doesn't matter what form liner they put on there, it just matter what you want. You can do board and batten,
So could,
but it's gonna look like, it's gonna be made of concrete, okay? All right? Okay. This is what we're calling the stick-built option. This is kind of like the custom build. And I, some time ago, reached out to Skepton Construction, who's the general contractor for the Community Recreation Center. And they put together an estimate. And the one thing we talked about, which is called split-face block. Well, this is, if anybody knows construction, this is split-face block. Basically what it is, it's not just normal cinder block that's kind of smooth on both sides, and you paint it, or you just let it expose like like we're seeing outside in the Community Recreation Center. Split-face block has different colors to it, it's different textures, you can make patterns, and you can see, here's some examples of, obviously one, it's a split-face block building with some type of veneer stone on the bottom. Okay, these are just, we did a Google search and pulled this stuff up. Here's another building that's made of split-face block. And so just examples of what the estimate that I'm going to show you that they quoted, okay? So if we go with the split, basically a stick-built option, what we do is, one option is to do this where you have some type of colored cinder block, manufactured cinder block on the outside, and on the inside would be sealed and painted cinder block, where, same idea, it's maintenance, low maintenance. It's not maintenance free, obviously, it's low maintenance. It'll be made, be painted and sealed with an epoxy paint so that the public works guys could go in with, again, a hose or a pressure washer, or just spray it down and sanitize the surface, because we've had issues. So this is another option. You can go with, again, we can cover this in, 100-year-old barnwood if you wanted to. It's just a matter, do you want to spend the money, right? You can cover it with board and batten, hardy board. You can put vinyl siding on it. It's just, we just want to know the direction that we want to go here.
Is the conduit exposed in this format as well?
Okay, no, so if we would do a stick-built option, everything would be in the walls, and everything would be done so that you wouldn't see it. You just see like normal, block wall, you see a switch plate, but it wouldn't be drywall, it would just be concrete block. Again, same idea, solid metal doors, auto locking, ventilation, no windows, heaters, basically hand dryers, toilet paper dispensers, and basically the same kind of concept of the bathroom I showed in the previous slide, just not the exposed conduit, because of
The same type of design, though, it's like 3 to a side, is that what we're still saying?
Correct, same concept of
besides
3 and
six
3.
bathrooms, okay.
3 individuals.
Yeah.
But, okay, the problem with the stick-built is that we have to pay to design it, because we can't do design-build as a municipality. Correct, Stephanie, right? We're not allowed to do design-build, so we can't hire a contractor, have the contractor design it and say, here's my design, and we go, great, we love it, go build it. We can't do that, we're not allowed to, okay? So if we go with the stick-built option, we have to spend money to have it designed, so then we can give it to the contractor, and the idea would be is that we would take this, if we go that route, we would take the plans and have them prepared, give them to Skepton and the prime contractors, and do it as a change order as part of the Community Recreation Center, okay? So right now, we're looking at 2 tracks, prefabricated boxes or a stick-built option, okay? But before I go to the numbers, any questions on that?
What's the time frame difference?
There-
If you go this route, how much time is added to
So th-
to your June, hitting your June goal?
They're actually the same, honestly, that's what we
Okay,
learned.
that's
Yeah.
good.
But what I'll say is this, and we talked about it this morning. What'll happen is that basically you will be like this construction site out here. You're going to start construction and you're gonna have somebody there building something for 3 to 4 months until it's done, as opposed to having it pre-manufactured off-site. They're gonna manufacture off-site, so they're gonna take their time and get in their queue and manufacture. You're gonna do your site work, which will take you maybe a month or 2, whatever it takes to do the site work. And then in a week, you're gonna have bathrooms. Because they're gonna bring them in on a crane and a truck, and they're gonna drop them down, and they're gonna put them together, they're gonna wire them up, they're gonna plumb them, and then all we have left to do is pour the concrete pad around it and grade it and seed it and, make it all look pretty and finish it up and clean it, and it's ready to go. So while the time frame is the same, the actuality of perception is that the prefabricated bathrooms are gonna be quicker because they're manufactured off-site. Okay? Any questions? Okay, let's look at the numbers. All right. It's like, and unfortunately, this is kind of like comparing, we're not comparing apples and oranges, so bear with me. So if you notice this column, these columns right here is what basically was prepared by Gilmore Associates back in 2021. I think they were, excuse me, in the capital expenditure form cost that was given to the board for the bathrooms, okay? And then revised in 2022. You'll notice what they did is they said designing and permitting is gonna be $55,000. They actually spoke with M&W Precast and received a proposal for $44,500 for the bathrooms to deliver the same type of bathroom, okay? 6 individual use bathrooms. They also took and decided, then come up with a number and said, well, we're gonna do $107,000 worth of site work, $27,000 worth of inspections. 633, that's what we set our budget on. That's what our budget is today, 633,000. It hasn't been escalated, okay? We're sitting in 2024, but we're looking at 2021, $22. It's a bit of a problem, which we have to be mindful of. Last year, we started talking about doing the 2 options, the stick-built option and the prefabricated. So if you'll notice right across the board here, the site engineering, which was authorized, the board authorized Pickering to actually prepare the site plans, which we had to do anyway, across both options. So we spent $17,550 to prepare the site plans for the bathrooms. Those are done, okay? The next step, if you notice between the 2, is that, in the design services, the building design, you've got design costs on the stick-built, but nothing for the prefabricated piece because they already have it designed, and they're just saying, okay, if you like this design, we'll build it for you, okay? So on the stick-built option, what we're looking at is basically design development phase is about $16,500. And this is based on Pannoni's proposal, and $3,000 for construction services. Back in earlier this year, we received 2 proposals. I asked MKSD, I asked them to give us a proposal to design the bathrooms. They gave us a proposal for $33,000. Asked Panoni to do the same thing. They gave us a proposal for $19,500. One of the reasons why I asked Panoni is because they had done almost the exact same thing for another client in like Delaware County, short of, that had, bathrooms, some multi-use bathrooms with a service counter window, like a concession stand type thing. So I said, okay, you just did this. Can you do this for us, and what would it cost for you to design it for us? So that's where that number came from. So right now, if we wanted to pursue the stick-built option and look at, we'd know what it would look like, we'd have to spend $16,500, okay? You go with M&W Precast, you say, we're good, we finalize design, and they basically start to, put us into their schedule to manufacture, okay? Based on the design that we received from M&W Precast, which I showed you, we went to Skepston Construction and asked them to prepare an estimate. And they prepared an estimate and gave us a budgetary estimate of $478,000, rounded it up a little bit, and $134,000, which included the building, everything in the building, okay, like you're seeing in the plan from M&W, plus the site work, plus the utilities, which includes electric, water, sewer, the site work, and their profit built into there and everything. So soup to nuts, but based on a concept plan from M&W Precast, okay? So so they had to make a lot of assumptions, plus there's like, I think I put in 10%, a 10% contingency on that, okay? Because we just don't know maybe what we're missing, or if something's changed a little bit different. So you can see basically carrying over the engineering down, that's already been done, plus the new engineering, and we're at 676, I'm sorry, okay? As opposed to the 633 we were at. So right there, going to stick build, it's going up, okay? Then quickly jumping over here, same idea, site work. M&W Precast gave us a estimate for $578,000. The Waring family has given us a $38,000 discount, okay, for that. They are the W in M&W Precast, and if everybody knows Waring's Hardware, that's who they are, from what I understand, who we're told by Dave Worthington, their project manager. So they gave us a $38,000 discount for the project. Carrying over some site work at about $110,000, but that's an estimated number, and the inspections, we're looking at almost, $700,000. Okay, so it's like, where do we go from here? This is why we're here discussing that budget work session, because the clock's ticking, but we don't have a lot of time, and so getting some direction here on what our next steps are, that's kind of where we're at. A couple other ads that we could potentially see, or deducts. Waring's said basically if we wanted to go with basically not do basically a faux fake stone on the bottom with the concrete, they would give us a deduct of $8,000 of money. Not to do that, but then we'd have to add in the cost if we wanted to do stone 4 foot high. I'm estimating it's about $35,000, because based on the community recreation center, we're paying $88 per square foot for veneer stone that's supplied and installed. I took the square footage of going 4 foot high all the way around the building, gets us $35,000. We want to go bottom to top at 8 feet, we're talking $68,000 to $70,000 to do veneer stone, okay? So we kind of want to, and that's if you stick build it, or if you make it a concrete box. If we want to go and do that and add that, they're going to deduct for a 4 foot high, $4,000, or if we want to go all the way to the top, it's an $8,000. If we want to stain the concrete, it's an extra $8,650. So the top three numbers basically are directly from Waring's, or from M&W. The bottom ones are other costs that I've calculated, but I've talked to MKSD folks to try to get an idea on what those costs would be. And we may not, be getting everything, but generally I think that's where we're at.
The other cost for veneer stone, is that for either application, like for stick built or
Yeah,
precast?
yeah,
Same cost?
yeah,
So that,
yes, because that's actually based on the community recreation center unit
no,
prices.
I mean,
Yeah.
you could use that on either.
Yes, you
project.
could.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
fine.
So that's where we're at. Those are kind of the options. We've been kicking it around, we've been chewing on this and trying to kind of say, like, how can we get it down to,
How about 4 instead of 6 units?
you could do 4. Here's what we did.
Savings, that would be substantial savings.
There would be a savings to do that, to knock off, but then now, the other idea is, are we shorting ourselves for the future? Because, what we look at right now is we have porta potties there. So it's like we have 2 ADA porta potties, and then we have like 4 more. So it's kind of like we're replacing what's there, right? So it's like, so are we shorting ourselves if we knock at the 4? Yes, it's a significant cost. I don't know what it is, but it would be knocking off a whole, section of the building.
Period.
But, so I asked him, I said, okay, I went back to M&W and I said, what if we remove the porch area? Just don't cover this area, just have it, it's $11,000. Because it's really just some posts and trusses and the roof. So it's not like we can knock off 20 grand for it. So, these are kind of the numbers for construction for today. The question is, how do we want to proceed? Do we want to go back to look and go, do we want to spend 16.5 to design it, to get a really good number, from the contractor, and then compare that with M&W? I mean, how
How much
else?
does that cost to get that done? Let me just get a comparison.
16.5. I mean, well, to get basically a design plan set that
Okay,
Skepton and everybody else can bid off of and give us a change order to build it.
okay.
Yeah, I think you have to spend the 16.5. That's
We
where,
would be spending the $16,500 for no reason.
correct. So we're a bit of a conundrum here about how we effectively spend, the funds here to get to a decision point.
Dave, is it fair to assume that with the prefab, there's less possible variables in the project? I know you said that you built in 10% contingency on the stick built, but I mean, for a differential of 20 grand, I mean, I kind of lean towards the prefab option because I like having less variables. Is that a correct assumption? Or are there other things that you could foresee jumping out and being additional expense?
I don't think I think there are less variables because, they've designed it, that this is what they build. They know what they're doing. And, fortunately though, it's also a big number, right? So yeah, it's less options, but the number's high. Not until, I would say you could get them at some point to be equal when you actually would engineer a stick-built type of building to know what's going to go into it, the materials you're going to use, and then basically say, yeah, that you could, now you tighten it up. But the problem is that you've got to spend some money.
Yeah, and that variable right there, that kind of jumps out at me as a deterrent from the stick-built options, but certainly curious to hear everyone else's thoughts.
Though the stick-built option too is, how can you control costs? Well, I mean, you could, can you make, could you make them a little bit smaller? Right now, it's kind of like you're getting what you're getting. It's kind of like this is it. So, can we procure material? It's not going to be much. That's the problem, is like how much, if we went out and procured material and used it for the project, I don't know that you're saving yourselves anything. The problem is that, when you're comparing the two, at the onset of the cost of the 578 versus, that there's you're talking $100,000 right up front. And then hopefully, we're not gonna have any, anything in the ground that we're gonna have an issue with either. Though going with the stick built, we're probably looking at digging up and going down 4 feet and putting footers down because we got to support a building where, they're telling me, we can put down pretty much a solid stone base and that's all we really need. We don't have to put footers in, though we'd probably have to have that looked at.
So you'd have to dig and possibly blast again for, there's a good chance if it's rock under there, right?
I don't think there's any rock there in that area because of when the park was built. I don't think the rock is down there. I think it's up.
There
it's up-
wasn't rock when we built the amphitheater.
Right, there wasn't, right. And then we also built that, yeah, the area was built up when they built the basin, so we're basically doing that, so, but still, there's the unknown in the stick-built right now because we just don't see it, so, trust me, it's something that I've been chewing on for a long time here, and that's why I kept putting it off, because I thought maybe we could get to a better number. Let's go back to M&W and see what they can do, and looking at this. Now, we can right-size this building a little bit, and if you want to say, you know, we're not going to build the overhang, it's going to save us money, but it's not, you know, a significant amount. You know, maybe it's 0.5%, I don't know.
With the prefab, you had mentioned during the slides that one of the roofs was concrete. Do you have an idea what the roof would be made out of for the prefab?
It is a truss roof. Basically, it's a concrete box with a flat roof that they put a truss on to make it look pretty. That, basically, it is a concrete box that they bring on site and then add the roof. I don't think I have a picture here. The only one I could probably point to would be this one. If you could notice here that, and even here, this is all truss. So this is a concrete
Okay.
box. You can see where this is wood, but, you know, this is a box.
So when it comes time to do maintenance on the roof, we wouldn't have to have somebody who's a specialist in concrete roofs to do the
No.
maintenance? Okay.
Nope, not at all.
Can you go back to the split face block that we would get if we decide to do the free design?
It's not necessarily that we would get it. It's something
could
that
use
you
it,
could consider doing.
Right,
Okay, you could build this building and you could put veneer stone on it, right? You could do a veneer stone facade. You could build this building and put hardy board on it. You could build the building and put vinyl siding on it if you wanted to.
so,
I
but
mean,
what did they, when you got the estimate for the 478 for the build from Skepton?
Skepton, right?
How did, you know, what materials was
It is.
that? What materials was that?
It is split face block.
Yeah, okay,
Okay, it is.
yeah.
Because it's easy, because all you
And
do
I
is you
think it
lay your
looks
block.
nice, and if it's, you know, it's a savings over the prefab, if they feel confident that they
so-
could build it, and it does, I think it looks nice.
It's okay. My concern is having that conduit exposed. I think that's a great liability. So, I mean, if we can build something that doesn't have that conduit hanging around, I
Sure.
think that's a good idea.
Mhm.
Kids are stupid.
Can I go to the-
So are adults.
Not even kids, any,
Oh, agreed, anybody. We've had a lot of issues in the bathrooms, trust me. In the pavilion, at Pavilion 1, the guys have the wall of shame. So it's, and I feel for them. They really, you know, do a great job. And so we're trying to make something, and again, a stick-built building is not gonna be, I would assume, would build it so that we have the same amount of maintenance as the prefabricated building, okay? We're going to do block, we're going to seal it, so you can go in there with a pressure washer or a hose and wash everything down the drain, everything. There's going to be no paper towels, dispenser. The only thing dispenser you would have is toilet paper. We talked to Skepton about doing a roof that even could be a metal, either be a high-impact drywall like we actually just switched in the community rec center multipurpose room, or actually even metal in the ceiling, so that, you know, no one's gonna decide they can just poke a hole through drywall because they want to. Okay.
I just want to say, I know this is a design part, but I really do like the idea of having the windows, the skylights in there. Because during the day, that might save us on turning lights on and things like that. I know we'd have lights, but it might.
With the,
Yeah, it looks like there's some skylights in there. Like, do you see like how it's?
these are vents.
No,
Those
no,
are
no, not that. But yeah,
this.
yes, thank you, Dave.
So the way our building's oriented, we wouldn't have the gable end above the doors. The gable end would be, you know, where the porch end is. So, and honestly, with LED fixtures anymore, and with auto off, with, you know, motion sensor lighting, you know, if someone's in there, it's gonna be on, after 5 minutes or so after they're going off.
Okay.
Is there
Point.
any safety issues for needing windows? Is there any safety issues with needing windows if there was a fire or?
not,
If somebody needed to be rescued for some reason, the door's locked, I'm just throwing out.
from my understanding, it's not code. It's exactly like in your home where you have a powder room with no windows. It has to have ventilation. That's it.
I understand the.
Ventilation is
Can
required.
I defer to future chief or chief? Any thoughts on that? I'm just sort of.
No, I mean, if we needed to, we can get in with that door somehow. We wouldn't have to take apart the building to get in.
All right, I just,
Door would-
it's all the safety, okay.
Hey, Dave,
Lieutenant said if he needed to get into the building, they would be
Absolutely.
able to get into the building.
Absolutely.
All right.
I want to go back to the question, to the statement of how many, what are we replacing? You said something about that where we have 2 porta potties and then you said we're replacing something. So
Well, we basically have, right now, because we have 6 porta potties, 2 ADA and 4, typically like around 4 regular porta
Okay.
potties.
during events, are those over capacity?
The
Yeah,
porta
I saw
potties?
a line about 10, 15 people down, yes, the other day, last Wednesday. They were waiting in line.
When we.
So I guess, here's where I'm going to. I'm kind of going to your statement of cutting out 2, right? So if this is a modular build, we could extend the plumbing and the water lines or stub them to where we could bolt on 2 more potentially if we had an issue to go under budget. And if we had a real issue with, I guess, the utility of them, you could add them on later. My question to that, though, if there's 15 people, what are we building this for?
We're building
Are we building this for a 0 line or a 0 time line, or what are we building this for?
Well, I think, I asked the question about reducing from 6 to 4 because I just wanted to see what that might look like. But I agree with Dave that we should do the 6 because to do additional 2, 3, or 4 years from now is going to cost more money. Might as well do them all at one time. And we were using 6 porta potties, or are using 6 porta potties out there, and they're used constantly through the concerts, constantly. So I don't, to your point, I don't think we can do less than 6, and we may even need to have additional porta potties on great events
And we do.
in addition to the 6.
When we have events, we do supplement, like, Food Truck Fest will have more porta potties.
I was gonna
probably.
say, are we watching during Food Truck Fest? 'Cause we're gonna see a high capacity.
When we
over
had
that.
fireworks, I think we had 12 to 15 porta potties lined
How
up.
much is a porta potty rental?
I don't know off the top of my head.
25 bucks a day?
I can find out.
I don't know.
Central Park's a regional park, and I think we've been short on bathrooms for a long time. So although I love cutting down to 4, I think this is our time that it's going to feed a lot of people's needs, because it's not just the concerts, it's the kids' castle that's being used, and all the people that are just in the park, running, walking.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so-
there's a lot of activity, so I honestly, I believe if we make the expenditure now, it would make sense, rather than doing it piecemeal in the future. We kind of talked about that with other projects in the township, maybe starting smaller and building on. We talked about with the community center at one point, doing the building and then the gym part of it, and just decided that we just should get it done now. That way people can enjoy the park. And throughout the life of the building, relative cost isn't going to be that significant, I don't believe, so.
So, just to wrap up, because I know we need to move on.
Yes.
Anne Marie's looking at me. So, my intent would be is to come in October to the board with the proposal, for consideration for the engineering proposal to design the stick-built option.
Yeah.
I prefer the stick
That's-
build.
That's what I would do
Do we
in
have-
October.
Consensus is, I think, right?
Well, we have 3. Nancy, how do you feel?
I kind of to go back to the numbers one more time. This is really what I want to look at. So the 676, it'll be another 17 on top of you, right?
No, it's in here. This 1650
Oh, I'm
for the
sorry, it's already
engineering
added in.
is already in there, yes.
So the stick build's 676. But there's still, is there a greater chance that that number could move
Yes.
versus the prefab?
Yes,
And-
because we still have to construct it.
So,
It's a
are you
gamble.
affording the 20%,
10% contingency.
10%?
And that's typical for us, is a 10% contingency on these projects, so.
Well, I think you got stick,
You thought?
Dan, do you have,
I'm gonna
no voting, just consensus? Yeah.
Just to confirm with the prefab, does that have a contingency in it or only the stick build?
That is their price.
That is their price.
If
Okay,
we wanted
so
to
that-
buy that, we would sign that contract, that
That's-
proposal today, and they
okay,
would start building
Gotcha.
and give them whatever their terms are. The question being, and we'll say, well, the other issue too is, and it's fine, we can discuss it after the board takes action, is to what actually the design will look like, but we can go through the building
So the
committee on that if we need to.
676
Yeah,
is
that,
10% added into
that
it?
one design with the, was very modern, looked really nice,
57.
that you had on the picture with
I
the,
like the green one.
yeah, the green one.
That one?
Yeah,
I like
that was
too.
very nice looking.
And to that green one, is that a stacked stone or is that a lick and stick stone?
I'm sorry, which, I'm
Green
trying
one.
to,
Yeah,
we here?
That one,
yeah,
the
yeah.
low,
Yeah.
That's probably, I don't know because I pulled that off the internet,
It
honestly.
looks like a stacked stone.
It
Looks
does look like a
it's green.
stacked stone, and honestly,
Yeah.
we would go with the most economical, again, a stone that works for us, that is economical.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
all right, so you
So
had,
to give my consensus point, I am concerned about the potential cost overrun of the stick build versus the prefab, like was brought up. But also factoring in that we can hide utilities better in this, I think that might be worth the added, well, I mean, it's gonna be cheaper, but any potential added risk on that.
There's also the option to control, I'd also say there's also the option to control costs, because as you go, again, M&W is saying, here it is, right? Now, if we go through this design and say, okay, how can we make this more feasible, right? By, what can we do to reduce costs as we're going through a design development? There's a cost in that, but again, you have a little bit more control.
Dave, sorry if I misremember this part. Well, at one point we were talking about having a charging station for parents with phones with this included, or was that moved out of the idea?
We didn't have that in this plan, but
Okay.
again, that's just a,
Like a solar, what would you think, like a solar charger?
Just something
I
where
mean,
people
it
could
would be
plug their
just a,
phones
it would
in.
just be a charging station that would be included in
There
the,
might be better solutions too that we could look
Yeah.
into
Okay.
to put like
Yeah,
next
bring
to
your
it.
own
we'll look, yeah, we'll look at, other
Yeah,
charging
that's
areas
also one of the
in
things I was
the, in
bringing up.
the,
If
in the
that was
park.
something we wanted with a stick build option, where we could have exterior outlets installed easier
Sure.
for public use.
Okay,
It's a
well,
safety thing, too.
thank you, everybody.
We're not done yet, hold on. So I guess the question that goes with that, with Dave's bathrooms though, is the next topic that we're gonna talk about is borrowing. So as you just heard Dave, our budget is 633. And now that you're looking at the stick build, which was 677, where we're still not deciding if you want veneer and/or painted stone, you're at 677. Now we have to talk about, is that being added to the borrowing or is it being added to the contingency? And we all need to keep that in mind. I know we're not voting, but if, we do want to add the paint, stone, we need to make sure that we have that included in the borrowing. Correct.
You have to use
Add
the
it.
microphone.
Added to the borrowing.
You.
So I'll direct your attention next to that borrowing handout, the one that I just put up. At the last board meeting, you received a memo written by Ken discussing the 2024 borrowing and the refinancing of the 2023 bank loan. The memo indicated that the need for $2.5 million to finish the CRC Parks Improvement Project. On this handout, you'll see that breakout as of September 16th. So we'll go through it fairly quickly. Number one is all the funds we have on hand. This is our bond proceeds, the cell tower transfer, the reserves transfer, the donations we have to date, totaling 8.7. You move down to the funds promised. We actually have the 1.7 that we can draw from at any time currently. The donations receivable is money that was pledged for a total of 1.8 million. And then additional funds that we have forecasted is another 100,000 in donations, another $500,000 grant equaling 600,000. And then you'll see the net total income of 11.1 million. And at this time, the project cost is still 12.9. leaving the gap of 1.7. We have to take into consideration the pledge and the donations we have not received yet, plus the grants we have not received yet, totaling a total project we needed the bond of 2.5. Any questions on that?
The item of $500,000 grant, that may not be available to us. Talk to Senator. Sorry.
It's a question, yeah, I mean, we did put in an additional, what they call the RCAP grant, the redevelopment, which is where the 1.5 came from initially of the 1.7, the other was from DCNR. We made that application earlier this year. We are still waiting to receive confirmation on whether or not we're receiving that grant. I know every opportunity any of the board members, myself, get, we remind the senator and his staff that we're waiting. We're waiting. You're absolutely right. It's unknown whether or not that will come through.
Our last conversation with him was not positive, though.
He was not sure whether or not the governor would
So we
continue to wish it.
That's why we
So, yeah.
removed it.
took that into account. That's why it's a
Yeah.
2.5, yes.
It's
So
negative.
with the 500, if we
To
include,
be conservative.
yes, if we included,
It's not in our hands.
11.1 includes if we got the grant, but then you see we took it out again where it says potential grants. We have to take it out because it's still not received, including the receivables.
Sorry.
Yep, it's all right.
Apologies, thank you.
Including the receivables and the donations we have not received yet. So the minimum, without talking about the bathrooms, which I want to revisit, is 2.5. Okay?
Now, is a bathroom in there anywhere?
The
Yes.
bathroom is included in the 12.9 with a budget of 633. So if we're already at the 677 and we have not discussed the painted stone, veneer, any extras, I guess my question is to the board is, are we relying on that contingency to pick up this? Or am I adding to this bond amount?
Dave, what do you think the embellishments are, just off the top of your head? Do we add $25,000 to this? Do we add $50,000 to this, or do we?
Well, to reach the 677,
Well,
you
again,
have
remember
to
that
add
estimate that I
44.
showed you included the split face block, so, you know,
Just a range.
I don't know. I'm not hedging, I don't know at this point because, you know, we don't have anything we can hang our hat on besides a conceptual estimate.
Well,
Right, so-
my thought on this is that the difference between the 633 and the 677 is, what is it, 45,000, so $50,000, and then, you know, another 25 for the
Embellishment.
embellishments for the project, so maybe 75, something like that.
The whole project was 700.
Yeah, you're looking at
It's all in that.
$700,000.
Okay.
So if the board was comfortable saying that we are setting the cap at 700,000, then the bond amount would go up to 2.578. And that's kind of what we are looking for the board tonight, because at the Board of Supervisors, we are asking for a vote to move forward with the bond, and I need a bond amount.
So do you know what, with that in consideration, do you know what the debt service looks like with the additional? It shouldn't change it too significantly, should it? It's, you know,
With what I,
Everything's going down a half point tomorrow.
that's right.
with what I am presenting to you, no.
Yeah,
But there are other layers that we will be discussing
okay.
in the next few
Thank you.
budget work sessions, yes. So does the board agree,
2.578 is the number.
or is
I
that?
think that's
okay.
right.
Okay, that's what I needed to,
I agree with that.
Mhm.
awesome. Okay,
We're going to get there.
8, yep.
And
Okay.
will you be able to break out the debt service for us to see?
Once we kind of start going through the budget work sessions, yes. As we start talking about different scenarios and what
And
we need,
this,
yes.
so this is, to be clear, the rec center, the courts, the bathroom, it's the whole project?
Yes, yep,
It's
yes.
all of the CRC?
Right.
Yes.
The next spreadsheet you're going to see is the
Yep.
other park improvements that you could
We're gonna-
possibly include in addition to the 2.578.
Correct.
So that's coming up.
So as long as there's no other questions about the 2.578 minimum to finish this project, I'm going to move on to the next section.
Okay, you okay? It's
I'm
2.578.
just,
So yes, it
I
includes,
may come back, but.
yep,
I'm
the
saying- keep going.
12.9 is your bathrooms, the building, and the courts. Yes. So additionally, on that same memo that I've indicated, Ken indicated adding $1 million to the borrowing. And in the last budget work session in April, I showed the board a capital priority Excel sheet that I said we would be using moving forward that showed unfunded capital. Ken, Ed, and I believe adding parks improvements capital to this borrowing would help provide relief for the unfunded capital in the 2025 budget, which we will discuss further in the October 1st meeting. So let's look at the parks improvements capital project sheet that I've provided you, which is this one. So you'll see, when we wrote this memo, we believe that the parks improvements was $1 million. We recently received the updated capital sheets, which now show the total to be approximately $3 million. Our discussion today, and my goal, is for the board to decide, one, whether do we want to add these park improvements to the borrowing, and if so, which ones would you like to add? So I'm going to begin with opening the discussion on if we would like to add park improvements to the borrowing, and if so, we will then go line by line.
So these are park improvements, not at Central Park necessarily, but everywhere.
Well, the parking lot is part of the,
So these are
project.
ones that are sitting in Fund 5 that we thought would go into a totality of parks improvements.
Yes, the park improvements
So-
outside, within Central Park and outside of Central Park.
So,
To me,
But not
So-
part of the the current
CRC.
CRC and park
Correct.
improvement project.
so as we
Bathrooms.
discussed in the last budget work session, now I know we didn't talk
These are
deeply,
additions.
but about the need for our unfunded capital. So this is one way that we wanted to discuss with the board.
what about all the trails? Because there was a whole list, slew of the
Trails we did not put them under park improvements, no.
So you have under roads.
No, they actually go under their own. We've,
Well, you know, in that. the- Yeah.
no, because most of them actually, and you'll see October 1st, and I don't want to get sidetracked, but a lot of them are mostly funded. So they are very small compared to what we're seeing for the large sections of unfunded. And unfortunately, our parks improvements have a lot of unfunded, as you can see. So what I did in this Excel sheet is if I put a Y here, you can see what the borrowing amount would be. So if you are open to adding capital into borrowing, let's discuss line by line if that's something that you would like included.
can we know, before we do this, how many of these things are mandatory or necessary, absolutely necessary, as opposed to just something we would want to do?
So a lot of parks improvements fall under beneficial.
Beneficial, okay.
I will say, I think the ADA dog parking would be your only one. Dave, would you say, which
So,
was a
lem-
40?
lem- And that includes, so if you recall, like, we had the board adopted the Park and Rec master plan for what, 20, whatever it was, whatever year it was, I don't know. One of those was paving the lot in Turk 2 and paving of the ADA dog park and a road down there. That's what that is. That's where the 432 is coming from, not just doing ADA parking lot at dog park, right? It's paving the lot, providing more park. So that's in that piece. It is beneficial, though I know Sinclair's been saying we need a parking lot for ADA parking in the dog park. If we were to do it and just do that piece, we're probably back at I wouldn't say 40 to 50-ish.
And that's doing it in-house? Or would
We
you
don't
hire like
pave,
GDM?
we'd have to hire somebody to do it.
Okay.
Do we know our numbers for the park, for the dog park? Because right now it's gravelled, right? If that's what's there now, it's just gravel?
Yes.
So it's not like you don't have a lot, it's just gravel.
The problem, as I understand it, is that to make it ADA compliant, having gravel isn't exactly helpful for people who have mobility issues. So I think that's what I understand.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Mhm.
I would like to know the numbers participating in the park and how many of them are actually Doylestown Township residents, because, yeah, I'd be curious. I'm just trying to figure out the biggest reach with this. This is a big
Mhm.
number, so
Sure.
I think that'd be helpful to know.
We have to provide safety for everybody, not just Doylestown Township residents. So if we need to build a parking lot for ADA in the dog park, I think we have to do that.
Agreed.
So that first line item there includes the parking lot of Turk 3.
Turk 3.
Being paved and expanded
Okay.
to provide parking, paving the road down to the dog park, and paving the dog park. Parking lot per the master plan that was adopted. Okay, we
So
didn't, that was how that project came about.
Okay, and
Okay.
the amount of that, is that
$433,000,
$432,000?
yes. Okay.
$432,000?
Mhm.
Well, I think that's the only thing on that list that I would like to add to the borrowing. I would like to add it.
And the last item, I think, that's the paving of Central Park Loop Road and parking lots, which will get us now. I will take a step back and say, there's a portion of the parking lot up here that we're using and the construction trailers on. That piece was not part of the site work to be paved, but I'd like to add it into the community rec center.
When do we have to have that done? Because we have something
That's
that we
another
may,
parking lot, which I was gonna bring.
oh, that's another parking lot? Okay.
Right.
Never
So
mind.
that piece up there, which I don't know how many, it might be 50 to 60 spaces up there along, that we're using currently right now in front of the building out here in front of the old courts, that would be paved. So I'm looking to try to get a change order so I can bring it to you. That would be part of the community rec center piece. But the Loop Road and all the other parking lots is that bottom line item at 415,500. Okay? And then we're kind of done paving and things like that. We do have a capital for paving in the Public Works yard because we're starting to see deterioration there. Mr. Shea has brought that forth to me. That's not on here. I know it's not on here, but that's another piece to it. I know.
So wait, for parking, is it 1.8 between the Central Park, New Britain Road parking improvement and then the loop?
Correct.
So it's 1.8 that we need out of the 3 million that you're suggesting.
And the 88, if you're talking about
The
88,
88, well, then add another 400.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't looking at the Central Park New Britain Road improvement.
we can discuss.
So a little update, Barbara and I had the opportunity to speak to the Congressman's office recently, and we talked about what kind of funding could be available for our projects through federal dollars. A lot of it comes through appropriations and through HUD. Most of the projects they've done in the past have been firehouses, parking, city streetscapes, things like that, mostly in other municipalities that would be perhaps a little less financially well-off than Doylestown Township. However, we discussed various aspects of the projects in the park. One of the key things that Kyle from the Congressman's office said, parks are not permitted under the HUD. So any of the improvements, such as the bathrooms or what we're working on now, are not permitted. However, tried to talk to him about the parking lot, which they have funded previously. And although it does sit in Central Park, it serves a multitude of other areas, especially when it comes to activities that occur in and around the community and brings economic resources to the area when we have large events in the park, which then benefit other businesses and the like. And he said if we put a white paper together in February, that this would be something that in the spring they could look at and evaluate. And perhaps it could make the list for funding, assuming we address the issues he's raised.
Do you have a sense of how much or what
It
the
would be
range?
we would look for the 1.5. They're looking for projects that would be under 4 million. So,
And
ding,
it can't
ding.
be a project that's, we can't build the parking lots and then get the money.
Yeah.
It has
You
to
have to-
be proposed. And he said that the parking lot he could squeeze it into effect or indicate that it's affecting or supplying or serving the community center. They would have paid for a community center, of all things, who knew?
Iffy.
But since it's already underway, there's no reimbursement.
So we're talking about the Central Park New Britain Road parking improvement? Is that what we're talking about funding with this 1.5 or 1.4? Potentially,
So
okay.
we could potentially just wait then.
Yes.
Well, I think, yeah, that would be good.
So
Okay.
to add on to that, make sure I'm clear what we're talking, in this budget line item, we're only talking about the existing parking lot there. We're not talking about the extended parking that we proposed last year, correct?
Which line item, what,
For the Central Park New Britain Road improvement.
That was the
1.4
490.
is the expansion, it's stormwater, and
Okay,
it's
so
the
that
existing lot.
does include the
Yes.
expansion piece of it. Okay.
It's 100.
It's like 100 and plus, 100,
Unfortunately, it's
yeah.
the stormwater that we had
Builds it up.
budgeted the 490, but when the engineer, and you guys authorized the engineering this year, when they began to do that, the increase comes from stormwater requirements related to it.
Remember, we had $1.5 million in improvements in site work and the parking lot when we had the Park and Rec building up there. Included all the utilities and stormwater, so that's where we're at. Same same spot we're in.
There's no way to expand that parking lot on the other end of where it is now, where the loop comes out, because it's flat and isn't the stormwater. So there's-
Okay.
That's where we
Can
were
we go
looking.
back to what we're actually looking at?
So am I understanding the board correctly that they'd like to add at least the ADA dog parking lot and the paving of Central Park Loop Road? Are there any others that we'd like to discuss? It sounds like if we can go for that grant for next year, I say, maybe we reevaluate this at a later time.
So what would
Deferring.
the total then would be for those 3 items?
Those 2 items.
Two
And you can,
items.
I changed up on the board. If I put a Y, it means that, yes, the board would like to add them into the borrowing. It would be $848,000.
You are recommending the Central Park Loop 3.
Yes, yeah.
I'm not sure about the ADA parking for the dog park, but I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm not,
What's your concern about, or why aren't you sure?
I don't know about the usage of that. I'm not familiar with the usage of that.
I wanted to know if we could maybe just pave what's closest in front of the dog park, rather than having to do the entire thing to cut down on the cost. Because I used to go to that park, and it's just, there's spots that are right there, there's like 8 of them.
I mean, if I understand Dave correctly, you can see the original amount was 40,000,
Yeah.
which, let's put the escalate a little bit to 50. Would that do just the dog park?
Sure, but again, we're talking about a county trail grant that's coming through, that's gonna impact that access road. We're looking at improvements, and I'm not being sensitive to the borrowing, I'm just talking about the project itself. It's also in the master plan, identified that we are underparked in all of our parks, including Turk. And so the idea was to expand the parking lot, but if we just wanna do dog park, we'll just do dog park. And that's what we'll do,
'Cause
yes.
if they're in ADA, they're parking right there where the gate is. And, Karen?
Karen, come up here. You're on mic.
Yeah.
Thanks.
There's,
We've gone through that from the beginning, so I've been out there with you doing that, but the gravel park, it's not really gravel parking, it's grass parking. Gravel has worn over, but ADA and the accessibility is the law, and we have not done that, and that would be my concern, is that we don't, while we get you close in proximity, we're not in compliance. That would be my concerns.
So wait, if we did, how many spots are in front right now between the grass and the gravel?
I think we have 5 or 6. I would recommend no less than 6. We do have a higher senior adult population using the dog park, and I go over there often, and I'm like the handicap placard police. So, because nobody else can drive up there, but we do also have issue with the field use and the limited amount of parking over there. So they are overlapping, and it causes a bit of problem, and they are now full year use on the fields.
That was gonna be my question about overlap, how much, basically overfill parking for Turk 1 and 2 is ending up at 3.
There is no overflow parking.
Well, when I say overflow, if 1 and 2 are, the parking for that is capped out, how many people are moving to the dog park parking and then walking to the fields from there?
They're often trying to park on the road or drive down the road. There's been some improvements on the Warrington side, so we don't have as many cars going down the access maintenance road over the stone through the trees into Warrington, but we used to have a lot of that.
Mhm.
But they do try to park on the gravel road from,
And is it for like when there's lacrosse and football? Is that when you, or the
it's
soccer?
lacrosse, soccer, and baseball is over there, so they just kind of spread all over the place.
Right,
Okay.
because yeah.
So what do we get for $40,000 on the ADA parking? Is that just?
You're getting
the-
5 to 6 ADA parking spots at the dog park
Okay.
itself.
Okay.
Not getting the road down to the dog park paved.
Yep.
That's just at the dog park.
That's perfect.
That's it.
Thoughts?
I'm comfortable with the 40,000.
I just know at some point in time, you're gonna have to address the access road down, and you're gonna have to at some point address Turk 3 parking lot.
Turk wants, I mean, we may look at that field as an opportunity with lights and making it something grander. So before we pave,
I do want to remind the board that whatever capital isn't on here, we're going to be revisiting October 1st.
So it just wouldn't be added to the borrowing.
This won't be
we
added
would
to this
looking
borrowing.
Like, right.
Correct.
So we would be looking
Can always
at
be
finding
addressed later,
funding
though.
Yeah.
so,
or not.
so I would put
Correct.
the 40 into the find in October and not include it in the borrowing at all, personally. I don't want to add anything to the borrowing.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
If I did my math right, you have $780,000 potentially that you're bonding for that could potentially come in anyway, right? 500 with the grant, which sounded like it's and then 280.
Correct. There are some, I will say, in that 180, some of those are split in 3 years. That's not all coming this year.
But it's,
So-
but it's potentially coming.
It will be coming, but just maybe not all in 2025.
Okay.
So that's why we have to add
So-
into borrowing.
I guess my point being to the board would be you're bonding for money you already know is coming back. So you do have more wiggle room than you would otherwise potentially think, because that money comes in, you throw it in escrow and defeats the bonds. So-
Except that I think you need the money to build the damn thing. Pardon me.
I-
I mean, you just need to have the money. It could be coming in 3 years, but you don't have the money now to build.
No, I hear you. But my point is you're not going to be, that money's coming to replace that bond fund, right?
No, not necessarily, because the $500,000, for
My-
example, may not.
Right, which is
come.
why I used the 280 instead of the 5. The 5 was,
And people could fail on their pledge. So
Sure.
unless the money is in
True.
hand and signed on the dotted
Can't
line,
count
it.
then we can't count it.
correct. Just, pointing out that there's a fund that's
Yeah,
potentially.
for sure.
Yeah, that's all.
But I was told for the last 2 years, that unless you have the money in hand,
You don't have.
to build it, then you don't have it, and you have to borrow it.
Correct. So I guess let's go back to capital. I kind of need some guidance from the board before I put a number in for your Board of Supervisors meeting of what we'd like to add to the borrowing. So
Well, we've already discussed the first page.
the page,
Yeah,
first
the 2.5.
correct. I mean the
So now
capital.
we're-
So the
Yeah,
paving
so
of,
now we're at the-
Directions on the dog park.
yes, more so the direction of
Parking
the
more
dog
than anything
park.
else.
Because are we all agreeing for the Central Park Loop Road should be in
Yes.
the bond?
And,
We can't
ADA
find that in our current budget?
We cannot, and we will discuss that at October 1st.
Yes.
Because it's sort of hard to choose this without seeing the entire budget.
I totally,
That's why I'm sort of struggling.
I
We're
think
in a vacuum here.
our idea of that is that these were park improvements, and since it's a park improvements bond, that, we could put these all together, and we're gonna talk about the rest of the capital October 1st, because it's a lot, to discuss all at once. So I understand that concern. So,
But, I mean, so it sounds like, though, then the Central Park, New Britain parking lot, the 1.4, and the paving for the Central Park Loop are all really part of this. It has to be done in order for the park to be done. Is that-
for a
And
grant.
maybe,
But we're not talking about that. Right now, we're just talking about allocating funds for our borrowing. Yes, there'll be projects that we're looking at, and
Saying those two elements are really part of the rec center project.
but that's a different conversation. Our conversation right now is the borrowing and what we want to,
Well, this
how
is-
much we want to borrow. What do we want to borrow? Right? So I think that the question that's kind of out there right now is how do we want to handle the ADA dog parking? I think that's the final thing before we can move on to the next topic.
So.
I mean, I think personally, unless the staff have any serious objections to it, I think it sounds like a majority of the board is looking for to do the smaller scope in that parking. I think that's the consensus that we're having. Are you comfortable with that, Barbara?
Yes.
Okay.
Bare minimum would meet the legal requirements.
Okay, so if we're discussing that, so if we're at the 2.578, you want to do Central Park Loop Road, you have 415.
Yeah.
And if Dave, wow, I know 40 is probably a little light since this was done prior, so what would you be comfortable getting those 6 spots in? 50?
Yeah, I think that's where we should be.
Okay.
We'll make it work.
Just so I can get my.
Just ask the Central Park Loop, can that also be, you talked about potentially getting a loan for the Central Park, New Britain Road parking improvement, could that be looped into? It cannot, okay.
Because it's the park.
It's the park.
Okay.
So if we're at 2.578, and that, if you give him 50, we're at 465. So a little over $3 million would be in the borrowing.
Okay.
And that would be the number that I proposed to the board in the Board of Supervisors meeting.
I think that's right.
Okay. I have to add it up quickly in my head. Hold on.
And can I just go back to that dog park ADA, just to, and why is there a timeline right now? Or is it, why has it come now? Or in,
It's been there since '22. Yeah, and we've been addressing it, we keep kicking.
Kept pushing
it.
it.
And our code department is,
A little over.
Okay.
continues to remind us
Gonna tell
that
3.1?
we're lacking in that compliance.
Yeah.
Your
Okay.
math is good.
Yes. So we'll just round for the error of, for Jamie would be 3.1. And that's what I will be asking to the board shortly. I know we're running out of time, so I am going to move on to our fairly quickly pension payment recommendation that Mr. Wallace will be presenting.
I believe everybody received the recommendation from the Pension Advisory Committee. They had their recommendation along with their presentation, and that was sent to the board in their packet. And they recommended that we move the discount rate down from 6 3/4 to 6%. That will take effect as of 1/1/25, which will then affect your 2026 MMO. And another thing is too is that right now we're budgeting for 2025, I believe $1.9 million as far as our funding for our 2 pensions. And we had, I know I'm skipping around a little bit here, but, you know, as of 1/1/25, they'll be taking a look back at the 24 and 23 returns as far as the pensions are concerned. We had a nice return in 23, which was close to 16%. And so far, the 2024 returns have been positive as far as, you know, our pensions are concerned. So that was basically it. They wanted to recommend to the board to go from 6 3/4 to 6% as far as our discount rate is concerned.
is that where we wanted to get to at the end, 6?
Yes.
So then we're done.
Yes. Yes.
I'm sorry, does that just mean that's the calculation that we use? Is that correct, the 6% versus going in
Right,
higher?
because right now,
We're
our
higher,
right-
we're
yeah.
going too high.
Well, right now, our MMO for 2025 is based on 6 3/4. 2026 will be based on 6%.
Okay.
So, you know, that's their recommendation.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Feel very good about this.
Yes.
Me too.
Okay.
All right.
It's been a long time
It's been
because
wonderful. They've done a fabulous job. You guys have done a great job.
we've been working towards this since 2017.
Yep.
So when that MMO comes in for 2026, that should be, you know, our minimum municipal obligation. I know it's minimum, but it will be at 6%, which has been our goal.
And close to what we would budget to pay anyway, right? So
Yes.
It's not that different.
If I could just engage a little bit more, indulge you, that as of 1/1/25, the actuaries will take all the census information, apply the mortality rates, see who has left the plan, who's into the plan, and then all that stuff will be, you know, calculated, and we'll be coming up with a new, as far as, new calculation for 1/1/25.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's great.
All
I
right.
will
Thank you.
wrap it up. All right, so our next budget work session will be October 1st at 5 o'clock. Anticipate, I do apologize, it's going to be lengthy, probably close to 2.5 hours. We have a lot to cover. I gave you the beginning list. We'll do the initial 2024 forecast. The department heads will give their budget presentations. We will go over 2025 capital and the funding, and a look at the millage plan.
And how far in advance will we have that before the 1st? Like, will we have a chance to look at it before the meeting?
I will sure try, yes.
Even, yeah, 48, 24 hours would be great.
We aim to do it that Friday, when you guys get
Yes.
the
Friday.
agenda. I
Yep.
aim, as long as there's no
That's our aim.
changes. We had
That's our
some
goal.
changes, so that's why nothing was sent out on Friday, so do apologize.
All right. Any other questions? All right. I guess we're adjourned.
Thank you.
I guess. Adjourn to executive session. Everybody that goes.
There is food in the kitchen.
Small little.
All right, you're back home for a bit? Okay.